The barrel felt cold against my skull. I couldn't stop shaking as I held the revolver. My heart pounded rapidly, as if trying to escape the confines of my chest. The world, bathed in twilight, spun around me as I begged my twitching finger to squeeze the trigger. I needed to die. The bite on my arm burned at an agonizingly slow pace. The pain spread as if fire ran through my veins. It served as a grim reminder of what I would become if I didn't kill myself. I could either end my life with the last light, a final flash before forever being trapped in darkness, or lose myself to the virus, becoming nothing more than a husk as my sanity dwindled and my humanity shriveled away. I was doomed, regardless of what I decided to do. Yet some small, selfish part of my soul whispered to me, telling me I could overcome this, luring me like a siren. Its words could not be ignored. I would survive. I was stronger than the others, immune to the virus. The bite wasn't that deep anyway. I silenced the doubts in my mind and let the lies take me. I put down the revolver and looked at my injury. The area around the holes in my skin had become a purple, bruised color. Blood dribbled out, dark and wet. I pulled my sleeve down, hoping Jack wouldn't notice. I planned to drown it in alcohol and bandage it when I returned to the barn. Before standing, I glanced at the corpse crumpled at my feet. I had sent whatever demon that had reanimated it back to hell. But for how long, I wondered. How long until it slithered back, eager to feed once more. Jack breathed a sigh of relief when I stepped into the old barn. "What happened? I heard a shot. Are you okay?" he asked, the words pouring out in a rush. "I'm fine," I said, ignoring how the world seemed to pulse in my eyes. I felt far away, as if falling asleep. A salesman stopped by. I told him I wasn't interested in what he was selling. "Where's the food? I'm starving." We sat on hay, holding cans of beans. Not exactly cuisine, but it was better than dog food. I found myself full, my appetite completely vanishing. I set my can aside and walked over to a dusty window, rolling my sleeve up. The moonlight revealed the bright veins crawling up my arm. The skin had become very pale. I had forgotten to use the alcohol. Now, though, it only hurt when I touched the bite mark. "Hey, did you hear that?" Jack asked, suddenly behind me. I jumped, making sure to hide the mark before I spun around to face him. "Hear what?" He said nothing, moving past me to the window. He smeared away the dust and peered outside, saying nothing for a few minutes. I watched the fear invade his eyes. "Get the guns," he said, his voice shaking. We moved to the back of the barn, watching every place the undead could break through. Jack had seen a mob moving through the trees. We extinguished our lanterns and made sure to make as little noise as possible. Some would say we were giving them too much credit. I knew better. This wasn't a virus. They could smell and hear just as well as we could. Demons walked among us, not zombies. It felt like the longest night of my life. My stomach growled and I began to think I was going to drown in sweat. Jack grew concerned and told me to lie down and try to sleep, but I could only see red when I closed my eyes. Panting, I stared into the darkness, unthinking. A muffled voice in my head shouted and pleaded with me. Its voice was unintelligible, but I knew what it wanted. No, I told myself, I'll be fine. Even if I have to just give in a little, I won't become one of them. I held my hand to my face and licked my palm. It tasted amazing. Everything I had ever eaten before paled in comparison. I couldn't stop tasting myself, knowing it would be even better under the skin. But what could I do? Eat my own hand? We didn't have the equipment to deal with a bloody stump. I sat up and looked at Jack, my eyes now adjusted to the dark. He cowered in the shadows, never looking away from the front of the barn. I sneaked behind him, my head pounding. I could smell the sweat on his sweet skin. I couldn't do this, I said to myself as I raised my gun. Jack was my best friend. He had saved my pathetic excuse for life. No, I can't. He didn't cry out as I slammed the stock against his head. He was out cold instantly. In that moment, I hated myself more than anything in the world. I just need a taste. Just a finger. That's it. I won't kill him, I told myself, as if that justified it. But it wasn't enough. My conscience started screaming as I began chewing on another finger, savoring the beautiful blood leaking out as my teeth sank into his flesh, tearing and breaking the skin. It eventually became nothing more than a whisper, and by the time I reached the bone, blood dripping out of my mouth, it was gone completely. It never came back. I saved Jack the pain by knocking him out once again when he came to, but what kind of life would he live now? I asked myself. I wasn't doing him any favors by keeping him alive. It wasn't easy to do, but it was for his own good. I told myself I was sparing him as I hit his head until his skull finally cracked and I could see the brain inside. Like golden nectar in a hive, I cried, tears streaming down my face as I ate my best friend. I cried when I couldn't eat anymore and looked at the bloody mess I had turned him into. I cry now as I write this. Your sacrifice will not be in vain, Jack. I'll blow my brains out before this happens again. I promise.